Thank you for tuning in to the Teacher Dudes. Whether you're listening as a podcast or joining us live on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, this is a podcast created by teachers for teachers that's full of some random thoughts, ed tech, tips, and tricks, and a general focus on education today. Sit back, relax, and enjoy as your hosts Tyler Keefe and Jeff Anderson take it away. Well, happy Wednesday, Jeff. How you doing?
Mr. Keefe, I am doing excellent today.
Awesome. Now, you might notice that we have a little bit of a different setup tonight. And what's kind of fun is I have a new intro that I recorded over the weekend. So hopefully I didn't butcher that too bad.
Sounded just like it's was professional and could be put on television today.
Well, you know, I'm always professional in everything I do. So no comments, Jeff. No comments. No, we don't need that.
I'm just leaving that one alone.
You're just going to leave it alone. Well, good. We'll leave it there. Well, anyway, tonight we are doing something new, and we are going to be live streaming what is called the Idaho Education Chat. We use the hashtag IDEdChat, and we have our first guest of the podcast coming on, and that is Janet Avery out of Jerome, Idaho, who was the organizer, I believe, of the Idaho Ed Chat. So welcome.
Thanks for having me tonight, Tyler and Jeff. I'm really excited to see how this can enhance our weekly education chat. Even if we did it once a month or twice a month, I think that'd be great. Just get more people involved in the chat who might not be as comfortable with Twitter as others, because I understand there's ways that they can comment through your live stream, correct?
Yes, they can actually comment on Twitter, and then by just looking at the video feed that we're doing now, they could also go to our Facebook page, which I think is just facebook.com/teacherdudes. And I'm looking that up right now. And then also on my YouTube page, we are live on there as well. So yes, it is facebook.com/theteacherdudes is where we're at on there. And we can find you on Twitter at Avery Teach. You can find me on Twitter at Keefe67, and one of these days we'll get Jeff on Twitter. But until then, we have a good way for him to participate in the chat as well. So how this is going to work, if anybody, or for those that are new to Twitter or new to doing any of these ed chats, we are going to, I shouldn't say, Janet will post a question and she will title it like Q1 and give the question. And then what you need to do is to reply to her tweet or retweet with comment using the A for answer and then the number of the question format, and be sure to include that hashtag IDEdChat at the end so that we can see it. And periodically throughout this, we will actually bring up the feed that we have from, I should say, the hashtag. Now, Janet, when you do this, and I'm trying to get my screen figured out so that I can see that correctly, because I notice it's not updating. There it goes. When you do this, are you using a special program, or are you just on twitter.com, or how do you set this up?
That's a great question. So I use something called TweetDeck, because I'm able to just follow the tweets that have our Idaho Ed Chat hashtag in it. And so that way, and I suggest that anyone do that. That way you don't miss anything in the chat and you can see when the questions show up. And what I really like about TweetDeck, I call it it puts little garden hoses on the fire hydrant water pressure of Twitter. So it just takes that large fire hydrant and just puts small hoses on it, so you get just a little trickle of the information that you really want to focus on. We have some great people joining our chat tonight too. We have Dean Shersky from Canada.
Oh, Dean, I've heard him
Yeah,
talk a couple times. He's really
yeah,
good.
he is. He's joining us tonight, and
Awesome.
then we have some Northern Idaho folks joining us tonight. Sarah and Jim Windish. Dan Winkler's here. He's a regular.
He is, and he's a
Um,
fellow tuba player.
yes,
And I
Tyler.
played tuba in high school, and he
I
plays
didn't
tuba.
know
So there we
that.
go.
Yeah, I
And
did
Jeff, did
not
you play
know.
anything in high school?
Basketball.
Okay, that works. That works. Well, I think we had our first question posted. Is that correct, Janet? Did I see it come through?
Yes, it asks how you've been using, just doing a brain dump. How have you been using technology in this last year? Just think of all the different ways. It can be instructionally or personally. I mean, any ways that you've used technology this year.
So Jeff, I'm going to throw that to you first.
All right.
And the question on the screen as you're seeing it is, let's start with a little brain dump. In what ways have you used technology in the last year?
I just actually teaching PE. I have a big TV screen that I can roll out to the gym, and I started hooking my laptop to the TV and using PowerPoint. What I wanted the students, and Tyler, we spoke about this before. I wanted the students, instead of when they're doing warm-up exercises like jumping jacks or squat jumps or things like that, instead of having them count 1, 2, 3, 4, that sort of thing, I wanted to start reinforcing the idea of skip counting, multiplication, and then moving into other things, but skip counting and multiplication first. And what I found out is a lot of the students still don't quite have those facts memorized or can't quite confidently skip count through their 9s or their 8s or their 7s. So I used PowerPoint to create a slide that just loops and repeats itself. And so, like today with the skip counting through the 9s, I had the PowerPoint playing to just help remind students if they were to get stuck, what product comes next in the skip counting series, or they could just simply start at the beginning and count along with it as it went from 9 through to 90. And so that's one thing I've started using is PowerPoint within that.
Oh, that's awesome. And Howard asked, he said, I missed the intro. Do you want us on here or Twitter? Howard, you could actually be on both if you would like, have our voices in the background, and then feel free to respond to the questions. I'll put this back up here on Twitter itself by replying to Janet or retweeting with the comment using the same format we've normally used with the hashtag ID EdChat. So Janet, I'm going to throw that question to you to kind of, get this going. How have you used technology in this time as well?
Oh my goodness. Well, I have learned all sorts of fun things as the situation demanded. So I had always, I started using Screencastify a couple of years ago, and I did little things. I was playing around with it. And then I started, that's still definitely not a Screencastify expert, but I have made in the last 10 months over 240 Screencastify video tutorials. So between Google Classroom, Google Meet, I even use it, sometimes, I make them, and then we're keeping a library for staff and parents to use. But then a lot of times if a teacher has a question, I will just quickly do a Screencastify and send it to them that way, because it's so much easier than me trying to call them or trying to explain it through email. So the power of video has really just been so huge this year for me. And also just seeing how powerful it is in helping those who have literacy issues. Even, being able for them to see and hear, not just have to rely so much on reading text. It's
Oh,
just
absolutely.
it's been a game changer, not just for our teachers who get a little video tutorial, but for our students and our parents too. So that's
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've been using Immersive Reader a ton in our distance learning model, and what's been really good about it is, like you said, it reads it to them. We can also set the settings to make their the text larger, and all that good stuff. And as us here in Nampa, we are going to be going to full face-to-face, all kids every day starting on Tuesday, and using those tools, creating those videos. I was talking with the teacher today about this, how they still plan to record their lessons. The only difference is it's going to be them recording their lesson with the kids in the room. They're going to make sure that the camera is set up so that the kids are not, in the frame, but they're going to be recording it so that if a kid misses something, or they need the repeat, they can just go back and click on the link, rewatch the video, and they're good to go. They don't have to have the teacher explain it a second, third, fourth time, which is good in a lot of cases. I'm not saying it's not, but it's also a different way that a kid can make sure that they truly understand what the teacher was getting at the first time, if that kind of makes sense.
Absolutely.
Jeff, do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I don't know anything about it.
Well, you're in the PE realm, right?
Yes.
Yes. So I guess the question that we're kind of talking about here is adaptive technology, not so much just using the video, because video is fantastic, but do you use any kind of adaptive technology in your gym as you're doing stuff as well, or just other ways that you have been able to reach those kids that can't necessarily read as well or hear as well, or thoughts on what you could use?
I haven't, adaptive technology. I haven't really, can't think of any that I've used. So beyond things like Flipgrid, I haven't really used much in PE.
How have you used Flipgrid in PE?
Two ways. One way was when I was having students practice, say, their overhand throwing, and we were practicing for a few weeks on what their bodies should be doing when they are overhand throwing. Then I wanted them to be able to demonstrate it, so they recorded a Flipgrid of them doing in the overhand throw motion, and then I was able to view that Flipgrid, give them some comments, and that sort of thing. And then I run a jump rope club, and for the jump rope club, I'll put out weekly challenges for the students to be able to work on, and then they can record a video of doing a certain skill, jump rope skill, and then we can watch it during our teams meeting that we have once a week, and then students can comment and learn how to leave comments that are positive and comments that are encouraging to try and improve on something.
Gotcha. Did you find that brought a lot of good communication and collaboration between your students during the distance learning? And then is that something that you're planning to use as you guys over in your district, as you guys are face-to-face? Are you going to still continue to use that, or has it it served its purpose, so we're okay?
No, I think Flipgrid has a huge role to play in education, even when we're fully back in and we don't have to worry about having students that aren't in school. So I think it's a big plus.
Yeah. Now, Jana, I'm gonna ask you a question here before we get question 2, because I know that's coming up really quick. You mentioned right here from Dean Shersky, he answered having additional monitors has been very helpful. Rachel responds, that's what everyone says, an additional monitor is on my list. And then you're saying you can't function without 2 monitors anymore. I know for me, I've shared my picture many times. I'm literally looking at 5 screens right now. How has the addition of that second monitor really helped you during this time?
Well, I actually I've had 2 monitors in my office at work for a long time. Actually, when I was a middle school principal, I started having 2 monitors, and it just helped me, be able to look at either 2 different points of data at once, or being able to, when I'm doing research, really take things, have my work that or notes that I'm taking on one screen and pieces of research on the other screen where I can then transfer it. But in this time, for instance, I didn't have 2 monitors at home. And so then when we ended up being at home, I just had my laptop, and I was like, I need a second screen. And because I just realized how much I depended on being able to I can split my screen on one screen, but it just isn't the same as being able to drag one of my Chrome tabs over to the other screen. Sometimes I even have the same program open on 2 screens, but they're in different spots, so I can compare different pieces of data. Or sometimes I have 2 different I have my school Chrome open on one screen and my personal Chrome open on another screen, so that I try not to use both accounts in one version, in one Chrome window. And so it just has freed me up to be more flexible, to be able to actually have a smoother workflow, if anything.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely agree. The screens, the multiple screens now are needed like nothing else. All right, well, we're going to move on to question 2, and I had to shorten up a couple words, so I wanted to explain that for anybody watching. And we have a few on here, so if you are watching, thank you, appreciate it. If you want to provide your thoughts and insights, feel free to leave a comment on here, and we will answer them. Question 2 is: we've heard lots of phrases that describe what instructions look like, or what instruction looked like over the past year, like RL, meaning remote learning, and DL for distance learning. What are some other phrases that you have heard describe instruction? So I kind of had a few typos in there. My bad. But what are some other words that we have seen to describe instruction? Jeff, have you heard any other words?
I can't think of any that I have
Can't
heard.
think of any.
No.
I got
Acronyms kind of drive me nuts, though.
I only have 200 cases or characters I can use, so I'm kind of limited there. I have one word, and this has been this goes all the way back to spring. Are you ready? And it's actually 2 words, so can I hyphenate it? Is that appropriate?
Absolutely.
Dumpster fire.
Oh, yes.
And I say that in the nicest way possible, because I am extremely proud of everything that my school has done. But at first, it was a dumpster fire, and then we got it put out. We got our feet wet, and it's been going really well since. And we've had our hiccups here and there, and we keep having them of the kid that cannot find their homework, or it got deleted, those kind of things. But now I would say, if I was to describe, going back to the question, I would say authentic in a way, because it's 2021 now, and digital learning is kind of here to stay. And if it's not, then it's almost kind of like, well, why not, kind of a thing. But that's kind of where I'm at on that. Janet, do you have any insights as I take a look on Twitter to see what other people are saying?
So I really referred to what we did. I think Jim said he called it emergency distance learning or something like that. I called it
Oh, yes, here it is.
crisis learning,
Yes, yes.
only because nobody had time to prepare themselves or students or
Right.
parents for what we had to do. And so we just did what we needed to do. I mean, we just, you know, took that emergency and went, okay, here we go. We're trying to get learning opportunities as much as possible to kids.
Yeah.
And it really was crisis. I mean,
Yep.
there wasn't a lot of thinking about the design and thinking about the pedagogy and thinking about, what's going to be more impactful, this type of tool or this type of tool, or what is the purpose of this tool, or what do I really want kids to be able to do with this information?
Right.
We didn't
Right.
even have time to even think through any of that. We just went boom and let's go. So
And let's go. Yeah. And I like right here, Howard, he brings up two words here that we have heard so much now, asynchronous and synchronous. Those are words that I'm sure a lot of us may have known. And, if somebody was to have said them, we'd have a good understanding. But they are now like just part of academic vocabulary. And so, that's where we're at. And Jeff, so you're any other thoughts on that one before we go to question 3?
I can't think of any. Not for any new words that came out in the past 8 months, 9 months.
None that you can share on a live stream, right?
Well, I wasn't quite going there, but sure.
Frustrating. How about that? At times.
Well, but teaching can be frustrating at times. That's
It's
what makes
true.
it exciting. That's what makes
Yes.
what makes it alive right there.
Yeah, no, I agree. Now, as we move on to question 3, it's saying, what is your definition of blended learning? Remember, if you are on online and watching, make sure to be using the hashtag ID Ed Chat. And I am going to copy this in here. Howard gave us a question from the last one. All of the obstacles to distance learning are what special educators think about minute to minute. That's actually a really, really, really good thought there from Howard. I'm going to read it one more time. All the obstacles to distance learning are what special educators think about minute to minute. So either of you, Janet or Jeff, have any thoughts on that one?
who tell me again who said it? I need to go read it.
It was Howard. He put it in the chat on here.
On there. Sorry.
Yes. And we're trying this out. It's going fun so far.
Okay. Oh, there it is.
So I know for myself, I've worked right next to our special educators in rooms right next to the gym. So I've got to see how they work. But at the same time, working as I've been in the classroom before I taught PE, we're also a very minute by minute sort of thing. We don't necessarily have it all planned minute by minute, but we are reacting minute by minute to the students' needs and trying to direct them, focus them, challenge them, encourage them. So there's my thoughts on that.
Janet, any thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with what Jeff said. Really, I think it's forced us to even for some of us, get to know our students even more. So because we have to figure out how to engage them. I really always go back to what Dave Burgess asks people in Teach Like a Pirate. He said, if students didn't have to be in your classroom, would they show up? And I think a lot of us found out that kids didn't show up to some of our classes, when they were remote. And so it caused, I understand that idea of minute to minute. It's really, are you meeting that student's needs? And if you aren't, or if one thing isn't working, you have to try that other thing or that other thing. Someone today in a meeting I was in with some dual language immersion teachers, she talked about, if our instructional strategy isn't matching the way a student learns, behaviors come out. And so that's, again, that minute to minute. And I think Howard said, like, executive functioning and all of those pieces. I think that became even more magnified during this time.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. If it's one of those things where, the kids don't see the structure, the point, they're absolutely going to be acting out. And I know, Jeff, since you and I, we worked together, we saw some pretty fun behaviors in, our 2 years together. And I think when you notice when there's no structure, the lack of it, that stuff kind of comes out. What do you think?
Well, I think that like Janet said, the big part of it is recognizing when students are struggling, whether that may be because of their learning style or they're just not getting it, or several different reasons, and making sure that we are constantly moving them in a direction that allows them to feel successful. Because if they're feeling successful, then they've got something to build on, and we've got something to build on. And then we can do things like encouraging them to try other things, push them harder, and willing to take risks on learning that they may not be quite successful at.
Yeah, no, for sure. Question 4 just came up here. How are hybrid learning and blended learning similar and different? Now, this is actually a really, really good question, because I know some people think of hybrid and blended as the same. So I'm kind of curious on your thoughts on this one, Janet, as we're getting some things coming through here.
Yeah. So this one, because I really was thinking about blended learning. My first, my first introduction to blended learning was, I think 15 years ago. But it's kind of when IDLA first started coming on, and they were using something called Brain Honey, and they were trying to help districts learn how to use that learning management system, and they were calling it, to do blended learning in your classroom. Or but I really think it's more about blending educational technology and best practices of face-to-face instruction together, and finding that balance of using both, but also really leveraging the technology to do things that you just could not do without it. So bringing in guest speakers, having students put together portfolios that could follow them from the time they were in kindergarten all the way till they graduate from high school, where they really build that that story of their whole learning process, and it's all, you don't have to have binders like this to carry with them. It's all in technology. And so where hybrid is, you're using technology, but it's more of you're doing things where sometimes kids aren't with you, and so you're using those virtual meetings, and then sometimes you're in face-to-face. And I think of hybrid more of what some of our schools are doing very successfully right now, actually, even in the midst of a pandemic. But I just see the similarities are you're using those really key technology tools to make a difference in learning, where blending, you're also seeing you're not using technology because you have to. You're using technology when it best fits the purpose. So that's my
Yeah.
that's what I see.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I'm going to go through a couple of these comments here because they're actually really good. From Sarah, and I apologize if I butcher anybody's name. Sarah Windich says, to me, hybrid refers to location. Students who are hybrid spend some days in the physical classroom and some days learning online. Jim Windish, who the fellow tuba player, he's saying blended learning is simultaneously using face-to-face methods and online learning to give kids more autonomy and personalized learning. I do definitely agree with that one too. Both of those actually. And then Rachel, there's a couple more here and there's some came in I haven't seen. Rachel saying, I think of blended learning as something that's been around for years and has been growing. Whereas when I think of hybrid learning, I think of it as something that is relatively new in response to the pandemic. And I actually definitely agree with that because I had not heard of hybrid much before this. There was one of my buddies, Joe Marquez out of California and Kyle Anderson out of Nevada. They actually talked about hybrid learning way before this because they were facing the issues of the classes are just way too big. And doing the one day physically and then the other day online. So that was my first real introduction of it, going back to it. But yeah, I definitely agree. Howard is saying hybrid learning requires technology. Blended is a hybrid of tech and not tech. I suppose you could use tech to ask students to do a blended task. If you're asynchronous, you won't be there for immediate feedback. So I definitely agree with that one as well. Dean Shersky, he's saying hybrid seems to be very specific to districts. For some, it means teaching face-to-face and online simultaneously. And in other districts, it's about days in person and days at home. And on that one, one thing I want to say is that's absolutely true. And I know for my school, we're going to be facing the whole idea of, we're going to be face to face, but if we have a kid quarantining, are we going to give them basically a homework packet or is there a way that we can bring them into the classroom as well? And then we did get a comment on here, and I'm going to go back up and we're going to go to question 5 here really quickly here. We had a comment on Facebook from Sarah Meyer saying, I'd say blended learning is something that has been around for a while, using technology in the classroom along with your everyday instruction. Hybrid is location in the classroom part of the week or day, and the other online only. So I think that's something that's been echoed from a few people on here. Any last thoughts on question 4, Jeff?
I just remember, Tyler, when you and I taught together years ago, and you would be introducing all sorts of new apps and computer pieces, technology pieces that you would discover, and you'd let me know about them. And you would find a lot. And what Janet said reminded me of what I said to you at one point. I said they all seem really great, but just because you could use them doesn't mean you should use them. So trying to be very picky and specific about what works and what doesn't, not only for making sure that, but to make sure that the students don't get overwhelmed or overloaded with too many options and choices.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I remember that conversation. I believe it was in the back of your classroom where we just kind of hung out and, chatted. And I remember that. And I remember sitting there like, he's not wrong, but I don't know if he's right. but yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on that. Whoops, I hit the wrong button. There we go. So we're gonna move to question 5, and Jeff, you're kind of getting an understanding of how these Twitter chats work, and they just kind of go bang, 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 and we go. It's a lot of fun. The hour that it takes, I swear, it seems like 10 minutes. So question 5: what are some key ingredients of effective blended learning? And I'm going to kind of answer this one really quick for myself. One of the key ingredients is obviously technology. We need to have it, and whether you're using iPads, whether you're using Chromebooks, whether you're using laptops, those are important, yes, but having the tool is important. But then also the second to having the technology is truly what platform are you using? Are you a Google Classroom school? Are you a Microsoft Teams school? Are you using Seesaw? Are you using Remind? Are you, there's so many different platforms out there that, those are some very key ingredients. But like you said, Jeff, just now, and I do go back to that, is just because it's cool does not mean it's the right tool. There are some tools that have came out a ton here recently where I know for me, I'm like, okay, that's cool, but not for my school. I'm not going to show them because it's going to overwhelm the teachers. It's going to overwhelm the kids.
Mhm.
And, it's one of those things that, it's awesome, but not for us. But we also need to make sure that we take advantage and properly use the platforms that we have on there.
Right. Yes. Yeah,
Janet, what do you have anything on question 5? As I see question 6 just got posted.
I've seen a lot, and I added, really understanding that, what is your purpose for your lesson? What is it that you want students to learn? And then what is the best way to get them there? And also, Sarah talked about flexibility, having that flexibility to be okay with one student doing things differently than another student. It's almost, I think for that key, I'm a lot of the things that I'm seeing people say, it smacks of that student-centered classroom, where the student, the teacher is that you give a little bit of knowledge, but you're then that motivator and facilitator and generator and asking questions and pushing and things like that. You're not, it's really that moving away from being that font of knowledge of all, to, okay, I'm going to give you a little bit of information. How are you going to show me that you've now learned it, and how can we use it to do something new? So, it's blended learning. Technology is going to be used, but it's not about the technology at all. It's about how our students really, how are we matching what we're doing to what the students need? So.
Yes. And that brings me back to something that we talked about in the swamp today at my school. For those that don't know, when I mentioned the swamp, it's the room that our academic coach and myself are in, and it's kind of like the hangout room, and we're the Sherman Gators, so we just started calling it the swamp. And so I just wanted to clear that up, but we were talking about that of, we can have all this cool stuff, but it really boils down to the students. If it's not making an impact for the students, we could have the coolest thing on earth, but who cares? It's about the kids and what they're doing. Jeff, any quick thoughts on that before we move on to number 6 here?
Yeah, I had read a book. I still have here somewhere I think it's called "What Great Teachers Do Differently," and one line that was in the book. I don't know if this is exactly word for word, but it said, "Great teachers teach. They give the information, and then they get out of the way." And I always tried to remember that: give the information, and then get out of the way. And let them figure out what they've got right. Let them figure out what they've got wrong. Let them test theories and be right there to do what you need to do in reacting to what they're doing, but get out of their way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And a lot of times, and I hate to say it sometimes, but a lot of the decisions that we make as teachers, sometimes, and I don't say a lot, I should say sometimes, it's about what's best for me, the teacher, and we're not really thinking what's best for the kid at that moment. And then we, hopefully we'll see it and adjust.
Right.
To
because sometimes what's best for the students is hard for us to be able to deal with, but it's what's best for them. So maybe we have to let some go. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Question 6 here. And Jeff, sorry, I had to use some acronyms again. we know that a teacher is still key. And this actually goes right with what we were saying. We know that a teacher is still key to student success, regardless of learning environment. And I right there, absolutely 100% agree with that. What might the role of a teacher and the role of a student be or look like in effective blended learning? So really, Jeff, that it's what you were just saying right there.
Mhm.
You know, it really, really is. And yeah, I mean, I don't have anything else to say to that one there. Do you, Janet?
No, I think what he said was spot on. And let's see, who was it that wrote that? Todd Whitaker. I think that was
Oh,
Todd
yes.
Whitaker that wrote that book. It took me a
Yes.
minute to think of it. But yeah, you know, that giving the kids information and then getting out of their way, maybe pushing them from behind when they start falling backwards.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
And with that one, since we're doing it audibly, we can kind of do this. I'm gonna give a little shameless plug here. Those of you that are listening online with us live, again, thank you so much. We appreciate it. If you're listening to this later and you're not able to respond in real time, make sure to follow Janet on Twitter at Avery Teach, and go back later. I know I'm going to be going back later to give my written answers to these. And feel free to jump in, follow the hashtag #IDEdChat, and answer those. There are people that will respond throughout the week. I know we have people up in northern Idaho and down here in southern Idaho. We also have people in Indiana that respond. And tonight we got people up north in Canada, is I believe where Dean Shersky's at. Also another friend in Canada, Roland. If he's watching, we have two people up in Canada, hopefully. But if you're listening online, you can find us on all the podcast platforms now. We just finally got onto Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, all those fun things. And then be sure to follow me on Twitter at Keef67. Follow us on the Facebook. It's facebook.com/the teacher dudes. And we're working on a few other things, but yeah. So we're getting there. We got about 15 minutes left. How you doing, Jeff? You hanging in there?
I'm doing good, but Tyler, you didn't tell me anything about homework.
Oh no. What homework? What are you talking about?
What is this that we have to answer questions later? Come on.
Oh, you don't, because you're not on the Twitter yet.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I will answer for you.
Oh, well,
How about that?
We can just have that arrangement every time. That'll.
I can create a at fake Jeff Anderson Meridian account.
Yeah.
And we'll have some fun with this one.
All right.
Go Huskies. That's going to be your first tweet. Go Huskies.
Go Huskies.
Yes. As I see, you're wearing your Oregon sweatshirt again.
That's right. Go Ducks.
No. We don't speak that language. Never going to happen. Back to what's important here. Sorry about that. Howard actually answered on here for the question 6. He's saying, for me, it's been more direct instruction. Like to keep a wide range of learners successful. So that, again, that's very, very much true. I agree with you there. And then going back to question 5, which I need to remember what question 5 was. Question 5 was, what are some key ingredients to effective blended learning? His answer was relationship, inspire, engage, great storytelling. And FYI, our online attendance has been near 100%. So Howard, where, if you can in the chat, let us know where you're from, unless Janet. I'm kind of curious to know that. And the other thing, the first word you said, the relationship, I've said this, I don't know how many times, the 3 most important things in teaching are relationships, and you guessed it, relationships. And everything else from there will fall into place. And that's really, really important. Janet, do you know where Howard's at?
Howard is in California. at, I don't know if it's a charter school or a private school, but to me, it sounds like a lot of experiential learning at
Okay.
his school. And so, but yeah, he started joining us a couple of years ago and just comes. And I enjoy his perspective that he has on things. It just
Yeah.
really brings a different perspective.
No, that's awesome. We love hearing the different perspectives because sometimes even though Janet, you're over in Jerome, Idaho, and I'm in Nampa. Jeff, you're in Star. We're kind of hitting 3 different perspectives, but almost the same in some aspects. Some of it, Jerome, it's a little different. You guys are more of a farming town. Is that correct? Or am I just
Yes.
way off?
No, the Magic Valley is one of the largest producers of cheese outside of Wisconsin.
Oh, really?
We have a plethora of dairies here.
Really? I had no clue.
Yeah, we have milk is our big thing around here, and then corn. We have lots of corn, which it's mostly feed corn that actually is for the dairies. So
Wow.
so yeah, that's the big thing right in our area. And then a little bit east of us, but still part of the Magic Valley, there's potato. We start getting into the big potato areas. And so, yeah. And then, of course,
I was going to say.
we're most famous for that Snake River and the Perrine Bridge.
Right. I was going to say at some point there's got to be potatoes in here, right? I mean, we are in Idaho. I know myself, I grew up in the Yakima Valley up in Washington. That's my background that I got here. And Jeff, you grew up in the worst state in the nation. I'm sorry. I mean, in Oregon. But we're talking football. Don't come at me, people. I'm just talking football and the rivalry. And good news, looks like Howard is back. He lost his signal.
Exactly where he works.
Yes. So Howard, let us know in the chat there where you're from and what you do, because I'm just really, really curious about that. And we are getting question 7 up, so we have about 10 minutes to go here. Question 7: describe what instructional strategies might be most effective in blended learning. So describe what instructional strategies might be most effective in blended learning. As we do that, Jeff, do you have any thoughts on number 7, question 7 there, or any lingering thoughts on question 6?
Well, for question 7, it would be one thing that came to mind would be just really making sure that students get a chance to create their own learning, their own assignments. What do you want to say? Write a report about, or write a paper about. Instead of me giving you the topic, what's your topic? Now, there are certain aspects of the ELA standards that I'm going to want them to address, but let's make sure that it's something that interests you. But that would be something that would happen. I would think, regardless of the situation you're in school.
And Janet?
Yeah, I think that having clarity, that teacher clarity, it's not necessarily an instructional strategy, but teacher clarity of exactly what it is you want students to learn, and then having students have that agency of, now, how do you want to show me that you've learned it? So again, these are some things, these are these targets that we have to meet, but we can be creative in how we get there.
Yes.
So I think, having and using a lot of the strategies of, having students process with each other, making sure you have that time for productive language where students are discussing, not just having more student talk than teacher talk, I think is really key to this type of learning.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I'm going to kind of talk here really quick Jim, his answer, and this is right where I was actually going to go, is giving students a way to integrate their interests and passions. He's talking about the Genius Hour, the Curiosity Project, or 20% time are ideal for blended learning. Absolutely. And Jim, if you're listening, and I'm going to send you a message here afterwards, because in the coming weeks, I think it'd be awesome to get you on here too. Not only do we have the tuba connection going on there, but also I think we're seeing eye to eye. And as we're talking here, Janet, you just said more student talk, less teacher talk. Absolutely, 100%. And we say that because we're talking here this whole time, but
I have to say I do have to say I'm really trying to be engaged in both things, but my brain is having a hard time doing that.
it is, and mine is too. Like I'm having fun looking at both and trying to coordinate both here. And Jeff's just like, I don't know what you guys are looking at. Okay, I'm from Oregon. I like the Ducks. That explains it all. No. I had to, but we did get an answer, Jeff, before I get your answer on number 7 from Howard. He's saying he is a middle teacher at a private full inclusion K-12 campus in Silicon Valley, in California. So there we go. We got our answer, as to where he's from. So with that, and Jim was listening. He says, if you bring me on the show, it's a package deal, with, I'm assuming that is his wife. And,
Sarah.
Let's do it. Yes, Sarah, there we go.
Sarah, also a tuba player.
No. Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm serious.
Oh, man. That would be fantastic. We can talk about bass lines for years.
They're very dear to my heart because they are also vandals.
We won't say anything. Just hearing that, I feel no, I can't say it. I can't. We used to have many jokes going around at one of my schools about one of the teachers who went to U of I, and we just couldn't hold it back. So I'll be nice. Although U of I, my what would he be? He's my brother-in-law. He's one of the professors up there. So we like to poke fun at that. So they live in Moscow. Moscow's also. It's also good grief. I saw also on the feed up there from Sarah saying yes, also tuba in bold caps. But I love the Moscow area. It's actually really awesome. It's a cool place. I love that small town feel. I went to Central Washington University for my undergrad, and then got my degree from Boise State. Although this might be the only few times you'll hear me say "Go Broncos," because I'm a "Go Huskies" kind of guy.
Well, so it's true confessions time.
I
have two degrees from University of Idaho, but my last degree was from Boise State.
Oh, there you go. And I had to put you on the spotlight there just so everybody saw you say it. Okay, Jeff.
Yeah.
People.
Yes.
Yeah. Back to question 7. Did you have any thoughts on this one? Describe what instructional strategies might be most effective in blended learning.
Yeah, it was. I had said about having students be able to use their likes and interests to learn with, making sure you keep the standards in mind that they're trying to focus on, but instead of them working on something that is boring to them, like when I had to read, what was it, The Great Gatsby back in, I don't remember what grade, and that was just not interesting to me at all. So
Gotcha. And there's your proof right there. It's on the screen of Sarah and Jim both playing the tuba, although the sousaphone, to get real technical on you. Mm-hmm. But yes. All right. Well, we are on our last question here. It is question 8, and I'm going to copy it and paste it so that it can go into the chat here. And we did learn that Howard, actually, he was a trumpet player. So we got some good band going on here. But question 8 is, what are the must-have tools for effective blended learning? What are the must-have tools? And are we okay by saying the not having technology on this one? Because that's kind of a given.
I meant technology tools. This is actually the only question about blended learning that I've asked about the technology.
Yeah. So let me clarify. I guess I was saying the answer isn't must have technology. It's which platforms or tools.
Yeah. What are some tools, or what are some types of tools maybe
Yes.
that we really need?
Yeah. And Howard hit it the nail on the head. Internet. Perfect. Like, honestly, at this time in the pandemic, I mean, that seems like it's going to be a witty response and a joke, but no, honestly, internet is so important now, and we're seeing so many different initiatives and programs and all this stuff to get internet to the most needy, in most cases free. So yes, I agree. Decent computer, absolutely. And computer can mean tablet, iPad, any of those. G Suite, meaning Google Suite, they're using for their virtual class. And then the Google Meet is easier on the processor than Zoom. And those that know me, Zoom, I cannot stand. I am a Microsoft guy. I just can't handle the privacy issues that Zoom has had, and it's been much, 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 much better. Jeff, do you have any thoughts on must-have tools for blended learning?
Not really. I mean, I use things in the past that were for specific for PE before we were in the situation of not being in school. I used heart rate monitors with the students. They'd put them on before when PE would start. They would broadcast their heart rate and their activity level onto into an iPad, which I would then project onto the television screen so they could monitor how hard they are working. And that was a real good tool to use for all sorts of various activities beyond just monitoring their heart rate. But beyond that, I haven't used a whole bunch of technology in PE.
Well, but in all honesty, though, that's a perfect example of blended learning. I mean, yeah, it's a heart rate monitor, but what you did right there, what you're talking about, and I know you and I have talked about this in the past, and, you know, with my wife working for the American Heart Association, and we've talked about a few of these things, is what you said right there is boom, done. That's blended learning. Mm-hmm. Not to the extent of pandemic blended learning, but yeah, you're right on the ball there. And Janet, I'm curious your must-haves in this one here.
So I think our must-haves are five basic things. Internet, obviously, some good internet, and then a video conferencing tool, whether that be Google Meet, whatever meets the need, whatever follows in line best with your district. So a video conferencing tool that when you are away from each other, you can do some synchronous activities, or you can use that to bring people into your classroom. A video production tool, so either screencasting or Flipgrid, or a way that students can share ideas through video. A file management system, something like
yes,
Office 365 or Google Drive, or a way to help students manage and organize all of those. And then a learning management system of some sort, but it can be as simple as OneNote or Google Classroom. It doesn't have to be something that you really have to purchase. So I think those are some of the basic 5 things that you need for blended learning to work well, because then you don't have to worry about, I wish I could, but I think those are some key things. So
yeah, no, I 100% agree with you on all of that. The simpler ones, the Seesaw, the Class Dojo, even though like Class Dojo is a behavior management token system, it does have some cool student portfolio pieces to it too. So there's a few things.
Yeah. I like if we're looking at things, I like Seesaw just a little better than Class Dojo, but
Yes.
only because I philosophically have a couple of personal issues with the behavior piece of Class Dojo.
Yeah, I can see it's very Pavlov-y.
Oh.
Well, this has been a fantastic time. I'm seeing on Twitter here that it's we're wrapping up, and the hour did fly by. And I do want to say again, thank you so much for joining us, Janet. And if we wanted to do this a once a month thing, or however frequently we want to do it, I am totally game. I think Jeff, I'm going to speak for him because he's a duck. I think he may have had some fun. Am I right in that saying that, Jeff?
I enjoyed the conversation. Yeah.
Okay. Good. And yeah, it was fun. It was good. Really, really appreciate it. And at the very bottom, I'm gonna go here because it's been up here the whole time, or most of the time. It says always next season, and that is referring to the Seahawks losing to the Rams in embarrassing fashion. I don't know how they lost the way they did, to the Rams, and it goes back to something that I learned very young as a child growing up in Washington. And that is the phrase, there's always next season.
Yes.
And Duck fan, Jeff?
Yes.
That big 0 on the side of your helmet. We all know what that refers to. So we don't need to say it. At least Idaho has a national championship. Oregon does not.
Idaho has a national championship.
They do.
Okay.
I believe
a little while ago, but yes, they do.
Yes. Yes, they do. But anyway, I definitely appreciate it. Every Wednesday night at 8:00 Mountain Standard Time is when we do the Idaho Ed Chat. Again, if you can't make it, feel free to follow the hashtag, respond as you can. Any parting thoughts, Janet?
I just, the power of this conversation is to keep it going. So whether you joined us through Twitter or whether you're watching it through YouTube or on Facebook, keep the conversation going, and we would love to have you join us on Twitter on Wednesday nights, because the more people we have, the more we learn from each other.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. Any last words there, Jeff?
Yeah, I agree with what Janet said. I think that learning doesn't happen because of ideas. It happens through the discussion of ideas. That's where learning for teachers takes place.
Yeah, I agree. Well, all right. Well, I appreciate it. And this has been a fun episode 4. And we will see you guys all next time. If you'd like to join us live and interact in future shows, or to be a guest on the show, be sure to follow Tyler Keefe on Twitter @Keefe67 and like the Teacher Dudes on Facebook. If you haven't already subscribed